My view on the sport, it's a game. My job is to make sure my fighters win as many fights as possible. They come out at 6 o'clock in the morning, travel to a tournament, get on the mats at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're still in bed, aren't they, mentally? They often just need shouting at sometimes just to wake them up. I'm very aware that I'm not the easiest person to get on with sometimes, especially in that environment. When I had 5 schools at that point, we'd just been relocated from a primary school into like a really dirty scouts hut in Rugeley. It was rough. So now we're up to about 150 students there now, which for such a tiny little town it's a good number. How many high-level athletes have came out of that place is, for example, the junior championships, we took 9 fighters to the juniors. And we brought back 7 world champions, 7 golds from 9 fighters.
Golds as well.
Golds.
On this episode of the Elite Podcast, I speak to Tony Anderton, international kickboxing coach, qualified sports scientist, and entrepreneur. Tony, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good to see you, mate. Thank you very much for coming to Liverpool to see us.
No problem.
It's been on the agenda for some time, hasn't it? But you've been such a busy guy. I mean, where have you been just recently, the last couple of weeks you've been?
Recently, we just got back from Greece, from the WAKO European Championships for the seniors, the over 18s.
Yeah, that's right. And GB did well on that, did they?
Yeah, they did pretty good. Yeah. My personal students did pretty good. So that's always good for me.
Give us a little shout. Who was that then?
So we had Jack Buckley over there. He had a real tough draw. He got the number 1 seed in the quarterfinals. So he just lost out. I went to extra time. He lost in that. We also had Ellie Harvey. She qualified to fight in Chengdu in China in the World Games. She got a bronze, so she's going out to China next year. We also had Daryl Merriweather. He's one of the veterans. Yeah, he's in his 50s now. He's still going, still winning. So he won. Yeah, absolutely. He won, I think it's his second year. He's going to quote me on this. Second European title. And I think he's got 4 or 5 world titles. So he's very, very well accomplished. And then Rebecca Davies, one of our 18-year-olds. She's still a junior.
And she's in the army now, isn't she? She just passed one of the female soldiers to pass the guards training. Which one did she go to? Which guards was it?
Grenadier
Guards.
Yeah, so she now lives next to Buckingham Palace.
Amazing. And did the army have to give her permission to go then for that then?
Yeah, absolutely. They're being really good. They're really supportive. So she's technically still a junior. She only turned 18 this year.
Really? Oh, yeah, of course she went to Harrogate, didn't she? And then went through. So she's still under.
So she fought.
She's not 19, is she? Is that
correct,
right? Yeah,
correct. So seniors are over 19 and above that year. But she won the juniors this year. She won the World Championships. Went to do the same year as the European Championships, and she actually won. She won gold as well. So brilliant. She won juniors and seniors in the same year, which is pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, that break, although it was a break from martial arts, it was also a change in mindset as well, which will reach. Did you notice that in her? She's a bit more resilient and tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at such a young age, sort of 16, moving away and having to stand on her own 2 feet a little bit, and obviously being in a different environment to school. I imagine it's quite different. I've been lucky enough to go and watch her pass out and enjoy that experience with her. But yeah, she's grown up very fast. She's definitely a young woman now, and she's that's very, very visible when you're watching her compete and carry herself and stuff.
Amazing. Look forward to seeing her. So so you are all over. Every time I message you, you're like, oh, sorry, the delay. I'm in flipping America. I'm in bloody Greece. I'm in Italy or wherever it is. You are all over the place, aren't you? Literally most weekends, because you have your fight team, but you also film, don't you? What's your company?
Yeah, so we travel obviously with Team SAS Kickboxing. That's my fight team. Yeah. We also run a production company called Beyond the Battle Productions. So we cover sport karate and kickboxing events all around the world now. It did start off in Europe, but we have done quite a few events in the States now as well, which myself and my partner Emily, my life partner and my business partner that's behind the camera over there, where she's comfortable. We travel together. We're very fortunate to spend a lot of time together in that respect.
Good. Yeah. Good job. You've got a good, strong relationship then. That's perfect, isn't it? For someone, you've got so much in common though, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? But that's how you can excel at something, when you're not doing it like a chore, when it's just you're submerged, it's just your life. And you haven't got someone trying to pull you back in off it to spend more time with them, because they're as equally as involved in it as well. So, and your whole life revolves around martial arts, doesn't it? You got the the Beyond the Battle, and we've used you multiple times. You've filled stuff for us as well, haven't you?
Yep.
And then you've got your fight team, and you're also Sentry as well, isn't it? So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we own and run Beyond Distribution, which is the UK distributor for Sentry Martial Arts for all of the WAKO equipment, the World Association of Kickboxing equipment. So we do all the head guards, feet pads, gloves, etc. For the UK. We're the only people in the UK that distribute that.
Brilliant. Success breeds success, though, doesn't it? And we talk about this all the time, doesn't it? It's like the more successful you get, the more opportunities you get as well. And you're a perfect example of that, of how you've just stayed in one lane. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's when people try and diverse too much, spread their attention away. Just stay in one lane, stay focused on that. And then lots of things come off that, as it has done with you now, and from your proven success with your team. You then had the opportunity with Sentry, and then you're a very entrepreneurial guy as well. And I know this because we've known each other for how long now?
January will be 15 years.
Is it? Bloody hell. So 15 years. And you've always been a little bit like that, even when I first met you, and you've just evolved more, and you've found ways to align other things. Like your filming's brilliant, because you can get front row seats to the events, you get paid for doing it, you're creating value as well for everybody, and you know everyone in the circuit, don't you, because of that as well. And people obviously probably want access to you then, because you're filming, you're going to have bits of their fighters. So
absolutely. I think aside to the coaching aspect that people gloss over a little bit, is obviously we get funded to travel, and we get, you know, the financial aspect of attending events, but I do a lot of the video editing. Emily does a lot of the capture, filming.
Do you just do the bit where your guys are hitting them and cut all the other ones off?
No, actually, I don't think any coach, and I've said this to my guys, I've not ever said this publicly, I don't think any coach watches as much video content in the world as me.
That's probably a
it is definitely an attribute.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
It is. And I do a lot.
If you think so, you know.
I do a lot of slow motion edits.
Yeah.
So I'm looking in heavy detail at more video than any other coach in the world.
Yeah.
And there's not a coincidence, I don't think, as to why we are very attention to detail in my coaching style and our fight style.
Well, you are, yeah. I know you very, very well, and I know what your attention to detail's like, and that's what's part of your success as well. But it's probably part of what annoys other coaches about you, because you know the rules inside out. Like if I've got any questions about anything, I'm just going to go speak to Tony, or I direct people to you. So you study them. You got photographic memory or something, because you know every part on every instance, or exactly what to do in any given situation, don't you, to try and utilize the rules, because you won't break them as well, because you live by the sword, die by the sword, and I know that. But you'll utilize the rules in their entirety to the advantage, to make sure that your fighters will get a fair go, and obviously, hopefully, become a benefit from the decision.
For sure. So when you're out on the circuit, and there's teams and coaches and countries that people who compete in any sport, I imagine, push the boundaries a little bit more than others, and some people are a little bit gamesmen in their view of things as opposed to sportsmen. So really, it's just about me doing my very best job for my fighters. That's how I view it. And if other people are out there potentially trying to break rules on purpose, like we're aware that exists in terms of
terrible
cheating with equipment, or influencing judges to make different calls, and I won't do that sort of thing.
No. But
I'll definitely make sure that our fighters have as much support as possible that falls within the rules, for sure. And sometimes that's an interpretation factor, because of course when we're fighting, the judges and the referees they're people, and they have to make a decision based on information. So perception can play a big part in that. So maybe we have to point out some areas for judges to consider that they might not have considered, or ask some questions that might prompt them to think in certain ways, but absolutely always within the rules.
The difference with you, though, is, like you said, because I know you're probably on the spectrum, like as I am probably. We talked about this a lot. And you have got the people that are like that are very righteous. They're like, if that is the rules and I am right, I'm going to fucking die before I give in on this point of view. And you are very much like that, aren't you?
I would say I've got that sort of reputation. I reckon you could ask any.
Tell me about your reputation, because I'm not on the circuit. I'm not as current anymore. Then, if you can't tell me.
I would say you could ask any referee on the international World Cup or European Cup circuit, and that is pretty much how they'd sum you. Oh yeah.
So you're known as being fair though as well, and that's you're like, sure. I won't mention any countries, but we all know a few that absolutely know the rules very well, but do the opposite and play and do everything they can to get the competitive advantage while not using the rules right, using the rules a kind of the opposite way around, and just, trying to make things look a certain way, or using the rules to stop fighting or disengage. And that's not what No,
absolutely not. So my view on the sport, because I do think it is that now, it's not a martial art anymore when we talk about kickboxing, especially when you talk about point fighting and light contact and kick, like what we specialise in, the mat sports that are not full contact, they're all semi-contact. it's a game.
Yeah.
It's a sport, and much in the same way that amateur boxing is kind of viewed in the same way. It's not really fighting. It's more of a sport and more of a game because of the referees and the judges. And even professional boxing's kind of gone that way a little bit, and there's some dodgy matchups going on right now, aren't there?
Those, didn't we, last week or so?
Yeah, so I think working within the remit of what's allowed, my job is to make sure my fighters win as many fights as possible.
Yeah.
And the view that other coaches or the referees may have of me that only see me at tournaments might be that I'm quite stern, I'm quite strict, I can be very animated and very sort of high energy at times. But those that know me from the gym and at the academy see me on my hands and knees with the 4-year-olds, and that's one hat of my many hats.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes you need to be calm, sometimes you need to be explosive.
Yeah.
And the way I phrase it to my fighters is I only have so many tools to get the very best out of them when they're on the mats. Some of them may be to lower the arousal and calm people down and get them to a place where they're at the best performing. Often I coach a lot of teenagers. I coach a lot of 10, 11, 12, 13. They often just need shouting at sometimes just to wake them up, right?
Yeah.
Because the way their bodies and brains are working, they come out at 6 o'clock in the morning, travel to a tournament, get on the mats at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're still in bed, aren't they, mentally?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think a lot of referees see a lot of that where, I'm seeing quite loud, which you know me as a person, that's not how you describe me, I don't think. But as a coach, it's about getting the best out of your fighter, isn't it? And,
100%.
And often, if you sit there in silence, you're not giving the best that you've got to give.
If you just sit on a chair passively doing nothing, you're not working. I know when you go somewhere, you're working as hard as the fighters. You're giving it your all. And what you just said there is very, very true about coaching. It's not one hat fits all at all, is it? It's an art form. It really is. And you see some coaches which have just got one. They're either sat there passively just talking, or they're just shouting at everyone constantly. And it's a push and a pull. It depends who the fighter is. It depends where in the fight they are and who they're fighting and what the result currently is, because you need to rein people in sometimes. Sometimes they need to go logical and to calm things down. And you very much do have that, and that's how I used to kind of coach as well. But again, people would just see me shouting at people all the time because that's what they needed at the time. But it's not what you do all the time. Certainly not. If you shout at someone who's already currently revved up, that's not what they need, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a disaster waiting to happen for sure, and we've all experienced that. That's how you learn, isn't it? But I think the biggest standout in terms of coaching people, that's again another one of my strengths. I think I try and be at least good at coaching fighters, athletes as individuals, and looking at skill sets, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. Often, I'm sure you've coached people that have got really good timing, and you think, oh, you could be a brilliant hands fighter, but their mentality and their bravery and their grit doesn't really add up. So I try and look at the psychology of the person as well as the physical attributes and think their psychology is more set around being a counter fighter. Of course. And let's use that timing in a way that fits their mentality and their psychology that will allow them to perform at their very highest level, as opposed to me just shouting, go first, go smash them.
One style of fighting.
Exactly.
Like at some schools, for example, they might all fight the same.
Yeah.
But that's very observational of you as well, mate. It really is, because haven't you got some, like, your sports science? Do you want to talk about your sports science background? Because you've got a degree, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So when I originally started in traditional karate, Shotokan karate, I started that when I was 5. I got up to 3rd dan in traditional karate by the time I was 18. So I was training constantly 5-6 days a week. Like, it was my life, it's been my life since I've been very young.
In the Midlands as well, wasn't it? What part of the Midlands was it?
Cannock I'm originally from.
That's right, of course.
Cannock. I live just outside Stafford now. But as I got to sort of high school level, traditional karate was just getting involved with the Olympic cycles, and we just got some funding from Sport
Before
England.
They got kicked out.
Right before they got kicked out again. So as I went to university at Sheffield Hallam Uni is where I went to study sports science with coaching, a Bachelor of Science degree. I got placed on a talented athlete scheme, which gave like 1/3 of the degree sort of passed off for practical. So I was able to train with a lot of Olympic athletes that obviously they were young at the time. Some of them were currently in Olympic cycle. Some of them went on to become Olympians. But it's really nice to sort of cross over with people that had worked in very professional outfits. Like I was mixing with rowers and gymnasts and divers.
At
And,
a very young age as well.
yeah,
So nothing to do, that bit was nothing to do with martial arts, but it was to do with top level performance, seeing how things are done professionally. Because, yeah, admittedly, martial arts were a bit behind then. They're pulling up more, but they were a lot. But that was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
15.
18 years ago. Yes,
So
a long
we
time
were
ago.
way behind compared to some of these other sports, which are currently already in the Olympics. Then I'd assume.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate. Sheffield actually gave me an unconditional offer, so it didn't matter what results I got. They just wanted me because of my karate and my results and where I'd got to. And I went on to captain the university karate team in Sheffield when I was there. Did my degree. Had a great time. Sheffield's a great place. I really enjoyed my time up there, living up there, and sort of finished. And then came out of university, back into the real world. I was still working at McDonald's at the time. I was a manager at McDonald's.
Worked your way to the top pretty young and pretty early, though, didn't you? Straight into a leadership position.
Yeah. So by the time, I think I was just over 18, I was holding keys to the safe of a £2.5 million a year store at times. Obviously, I wasn't the top of the management, but I would be the highest in the building many, many times. I used to do lots of night shifts 'cause it's nice and easy.
Yeah.
And I was obviously young, happy to do
More
night
money
shifts.
for nights as well, do you?
Yeah. Well, people don't want to do them, so they're always available. And then it got to that point where, you come out of the university bubble into the real world and then think, I work at McDonald's and I've got a degree, but what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's how I came across yourself. I just found an advert online. It was on a website called Leisure Jobs. I don't know if it still exists anymore.
That's how I used to use some of the recruitment. You get a lot of rubbish on there, but you had a few diamonds in the rough as well. You were certainly one of them. I remember speaking to my wife about you. I just said I found this really good guy on there, and you were on it immediately. I could tell you were super professional. You came on the course, smashed the training course as well, which is a tough course, that 5-day course, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's still the same now. It's still pretty much the same. I know it's evolved and it's called the Elite course. It was called the L2 back then, I think it was, wasn't it? But it's all the same, fundamentally exactly the same. Layout might be slightly different, but it's all the same physical tests and assessments and stuff. And you smashed that with an A grade. And then we opened up, your first one was in Tamworth, was it?
Tamworth and Rugeley were
that was
where
right.
I went. Tamworth was first, Rugeley was like a few months after.
That was right, yeah. And then things just evolved, didn't they? And then we moved locations, you opened other ones. You everything you said, you just did exactly right to the letter, and you just quite very quickly got, I've got this. Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So we went quickly. We had 5 locations. That's what I went to. So I had Tamworth and Rugeley a couple of nights a week. I had Wombourne just outside of Wolverhampton, and then Nuneaton and Coleshill. They were my locations. So I
can't remember all
I was doing a lot of driving. That was the thing I remember.
That's normally how it starts, isn't it? When they start off with, you got multiple locations, you're driving around, but you learn a lot in that stages, don't you?
Oh,
and
sure.
you learn a lot as well about management with other instructors quite quickly, didn't we? Because you was expanding, you were moving, you needed other people to cover. And as any martial arts instructor will know out there, it's just a bloody disaster, isn't it? People let you down, and you quite quickly learn that people aren't necessarily going to do exactly as they say to you, didn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I very quickly learned to expect the worst and be surprised when people are competent and do what they actually say they're going to do, because often it's not the way, like you say. But we're the special ones, right?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. Well, it's like attracts like, doesn't it? That's why we've sustained such a long relationship, and many years may it last as well. And also, you attract similar people. We network with a load of great people within the industry, don't we?
Absolutely.
I mean, like Andy Cleves and stuff as well. We're both good friends with that you work with in.
It's another business that we haven't discussed yet. So we myself, Andy, JC Cashman, Sean McCarthy and Ian Watkins, we run the biggest kickboxing tournament league in the UK. We have about 5,000 entries each season over 3 different events called the GB Grand Slam League.
That is exceptional by anyone's standard. And that's just, there's 3 events, isn't there?
3,
That's right. And then they're headed by different people within those groups, like you've just said, at various parts of the UK, isn't it?
Correct. So JC Cashman's the chairman of it. And then
he's another really great guy as well, isn't he? He's so thorough. It's so thorough with the way he does stuff. He's, again, another one like you, live by the sword, die by the sword. Do you guys get on well as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I thought you either would or you wouldn't.
No,
it was going to be one of those or the other, because you're both quite similar in that way, aren't you? He's like, he was another one. If he thinks it's right, he's not going to back down at all either, is he?
No. So I'm just going into my 9th year on the coaching staff of Team GB Kickboxing.
Yeah.
And my very first year that I went in, I roomed with JC.
Did you?
So we bunked up together for the week, and
he thought, did we just become best friends?
Yeah, basically. He got his little green tea set out and started making green tea in his little Japanese. And I was
you had
like,
a moment together.
This guy's some guy. Like he's a cool dude. Like he's a unique character, and we've had some fantastic conversations about otherworldly stuff.
No, he's quite deep, isn't he?
Oh yeah. His Instagram's the Warrior of Light.
Yeah,
that gives some insight into his character.
Yeah,
and he's a wicked dude, really really cool dude. But he was super welcoming when I came into the Team GB setup, and that was the thing that sort of clicked with me because I'm very aware that I'm not the easiest person to get on with sometimes, especially in that environment. I'm there to do a job, and emotions and feelings are probably quite far down the list.
Yeah.
It's about performance. Yeah,
but Jace is like that as well.
I agree.
But he's the same as well, isn't he?
Obviously, I feel like I'm a very caring and compassionate person.
Though. I know you. I know, but how externally some people, if they don't know you or if they're not in your immediate clique, they're not going to experience that, are they?
Yeah. And ultimately, at that time, the most important thing to me is giving that child that's dedicated the last 5-6 years of their life to be in this room to go and try and win a world title. I need to give them everything I have to give.
Yeah.
And if somebody gets a little upset because I've said something in a way that I feel is the best way to make that happen, then that's kind of collateral damage in terms of getting the job done, isn't it?
If I was fighting, I'd want you in my corner, mate. 100%, you got your back. And then, so you got JC, and then obviously Andy, amazing guy, one of my good friends as well, as he is with you. And he's a very clever guy. He's very much in the industry, but he is great at pulling people together in teams. He is a lot softer with his approach, and he's very likable and charismatic. And so that's a perfect blend with you two as well, and then him for like front end, because he's very likable, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
And he's very charismatic, and he knows a lot of people. So it's like so if if you work in a team with anyone, as you'll agree, it's like the A team. Like you had BA was the strong one. Face was the handsome one who used to charm people. Hannibal had a plan. And who was the other one? I can't even remember.
Mr. T, you're probably forgetting on.
Mr. T with the muscles who just beat everyone up. So they all had different attributes, didn't they? So if they're all the same, and that's the same in the team, like you can all do and offer different things, which is what makes a great team. If you're all similar, you clash, and they don't really add any extra value being with them. And as you probably experienced doing other stuff with other people in the past. So you got him as well, and then you got the other one, Sean and Matt, was it?
Sean McCarthy and Ian Watkins. Ian's the sport
contact guy.
Nah, he's sport data background here. So he's Ian, the guy that he runs like the world championships and everything. He's one of our directors. So is
that Mark Watkins, the full contact?
Mark's
that's what I was getting. That's why I said Mark.
Yeah, Mark's the full contact.
Yeah, I know
guy.
Ian. He's the computer guy.
He's wicked as well. Any help you need, you only got to shout Ian into the air and he'll appear like a genie. Stuff goes wrong and he just turns up and fixes it.
And then you've got Sean as well. Again, another great fighter.
Phenomenal martial artist.
Yeah.
Funny story about Sean. I actually told him this a couple of weeks ago. So when I came from karate into kickboxing, typical fighter's mentality, didn't have a clue what I was doing. I'd just done 5 days of training with you. I was like, right. And I obviously walked into the golden era of your Elijah Everell, Ryan Marlowe, Chris Aston. They were all 13, 14.
We were all dominating, weren't we? Everything at that stage.
But they were kids.
Yeah.
They were not kids, were they? Let's be honest. They were smashing people.
Trained them hard though, didn't they? They got trained like paratroopers from a very young age.
So I had my eyes opened that week thinking, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here. Went and did a GB training session after the nationals, and the first person I just thought I'll train because I wasn't competing, I was just coaching. So I'm probably 2 years into kickboxing now, got a little team going, just starting to get going. So I thought, right, I'll push my level. Jumped in, touched gloves with someone, didn't have a clue who it was. So you're right, I'm Tony. He was like, you're right, I'm Sean. Kicked at him and he turned and swept me and put me straight at my ass. First point within 5 seconds. Sean McCarthy.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Was it a spinning sweep?
Spin swept me and hit the deck, and I just lay there for a second. I was like, okay, he's pretty good. Stood up and like smiled, and he sort of chuckled, and then we had a good scrap. Then it was funny, but that's my first impression of Sean McCarthy. Didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about kickboxing.
Very unnassuming
to look at, just a happy, smiley guy, isn't he?
He used to be the little kid in the SWAT team. I think they got him as a junior because he was doing so well. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it was, because he was in the SWAT team with Clifton and all the other guys. Peter Edwards and Billy Bryce and everyone else that was in the team, Mark Brown. So he was there, and he was the younger one, but they got him. They just obviously saw the talent, didn't they? And they pulled him through with him.
Sure, yeah.
So he was very much at the top as well, and he's still a very humble and nice guy as well.
Bringing through great fighters now as well.
Who are, sorry?
He's bringing through great fighters, yeah.
Do you know what? The standard of fighters in the UK is crazy, isn't it?
That's
There's just
outrageous.
there's so many, especially now again. It dips, doesn't it? And then it goes back up. I'm not sure about the adult side of stuff anymore, but I know that the juniors are dominating pretty much, aren't they?
But yeah, the last 2 years we've topped the medal tally for the first time ever.
GB did?
Yeah, GB.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I don't think we've ever, definitely not in my time, last 10 years, have been top of the World Championships ever until this year just gone. Or top of the Europeans like the year before.
That's amazing. And that comes from grassroots. I mean, you know, the events you're doing as well, that's definitely going to be having some impact because they're able to compete at a level which is equivalent of what you'd get at the international events, I'd say now, finally, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And they can do it in the UK. Before, if you think about all the European fighters, when I was competing, they could just drive, and they used to drive. Every tournament they went to was like a big international event. They'd be fighting people from all over. And they could just drive from France to bloody Spain or Germany to bloody Greece or wherever it would be, or Italy, and they can just drive a few hours and they can get there. UK's self-contained, and I know we haven't got the international ones coming over apart from the international events, but because the standard's so good, and you've got the same rule set now, because we were literally competing in different rule sets on different size areas. It was points, but it was like it might be
points
different.
light.
So, yeah, but now it's got more. There's more continuity now in line with WAKO, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as you can imagine, all of our rules are exactly what the WAKO rules are. So when we started the GB Grand Slam, JC is the guy that pulled us all together, and we had a discussion. The issue we had, all the tournaments in the UK, they didn't. When you go abroad, as you know, you do multiple rounds per fight. So if you're a 13-year-old boy, you'll do two-minute rounds per match.
Yeah.
In the UK, there was nowhere to do 2 rounds.
You do 1.5 minute round, wouldn't it? And then you'd be gone.
Yeah.
If you lost.
There was lots of things like say the areas were the wrong size.
The wrong weight sections.
The age classes were even wrong.
Yeah.
When I came into it, we had kids fighting just under 16 years. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
You got a 12-year-old against a flipping 16-year-old.
You know, and you'd have the anomalies stick out and somebody might whip, but it's not what you're training to go and compete in, is it? It's the structure needs to match what you're going to fight at the World Championships or the European Championships, if that's to be the case where you want to be at the level where you're going to go and win. One way of doing that was obviously traveling abroad, but that was, you know, what's that, 1% of the UK community would travel.
Yeah.
So we decided for our students, because we're all school owners, we need to do something about it ourselves. And we created the GB Grand Slam League, and we put rookie divisions in that's less than 1 year experience.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not belt relative.
Yeah,
because it's experience relative.
And the reason doing that, I'm assuming, is because you get the beginners that have been training for years and years and just stay in the beginner sections. And just that, when I was competing, some of the beginners were as good as any advanced fighter, and they're just staying there for years and just keep scalping everybody. I'm assuming that's why you
half that, but also half totally the opposite.
Which is,
so we have lots of people come to us. We tried to create an environment that was grand, hence the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And N in our acronym of grand is about being nurturing.
Yeah.
So what if you're a black belt that's come from a school that's never competed?
Yeah, of course. So you'd be allowed in that.
That's a beginner. Which is why it's not a beginner. That's why it's a rookie. Because now we're talking about sport.
I didn't realise you did it that way as well. Yeah.
So now
you know that because you did the same yourself, didn't you? And if you go and you switch, you are a beginner. You're not a black belt. If you go from another style, it's
and that's obviously more targeted towards children. Maybe they've trained for 3 years and never had a fight. Well, that's not fair to put them against someone that's fought on the circuit for 3 years, because, as you know, that's a totally different level. And if people are too high a level, it's monitored. It's not, you know, like if you're a rookie and you're 10-0 in everybody, you're going to be removed from the division and moved up a division. But it gives that layer.
There and then, or would it be after the complete?
There and then, if needed.
Would it?
Yeah, we do that.
Too good.
Yep.
You're going to fight up.
We'll move them. That's fine. So that's obviously whenever you try and be accommodating, there's always a level of, again,
resistance.
Perception of what a rookie is and where do you draw. But we're trying to do it in the best way possible, where we are able to be nurturing and look after people that are not just going to come in. Because again, we're trying to grow the sport. That was one of our goals, was to grow the sport in the UK. So we've got from that point where there wasn't anywhere to compete for 2 2-minute rounds, for example, to we're turning international entries away every single time we do an event.
People are trying to come over now. Are
Every
you not
single
letting them
event.
then? Are you
No.
keeping this
It's
as
for
a UK?
It's for
Good.
Great Britain.
You're staying in your lane. That's like
And
that.
there's a reason that, in my opinion, I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's 100% a contributing factor that GB are now excelling up and above and beyond anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in Europe has this. We're the only country in Europe that runs a league like this. And shockingly, we're now sticking our head out above and beyond everybody else. Like, I don't believe in coincidences. I just think you're not smart enough to see what the joining
I
of
bet
the
you and
dots
Andy
are.
are now thinking, though, because I know you both like as well, you must be thinking, you always think of the next step and the next progression and what to do. You're not thinking, can we do an international league? Is that being talked about? Or you go, no, stick to this, GB first, because you're all really busy. You can't really be doing any more,
That's
can you?
the issue. So,
and you need to, as you get successful, I've told you this loads of times as well, because I did exactly the same. You get more opportunities. We spoke about it earlier. Success breeds success. So you have to say no a lot more, because otherwise you're moving out of your lane. And that's when you're going to spread your attention out and you're just going to be mediocre at something. And then you're just going to fall by the wayside at that point, aren't you?
For sure. So as the next steps for the Grand Slam we're looking to put a northern event in now, because we currently have a central event, southeastern and southwestern.
So we're
going to put a northern in, so we'll have one a quarter.
That's a step up as well then, isn't it?
A sensible progression, isn't it? And then from there, we've looked at the idea of how we build regional events in that are smaller and therefore just the central region, for example. So maybe that's just rookies.
Yeah.
And it's to give the people that need the fight time more fight time. We're talking a couple of years down the line here, and maybe myself, maybe I'm not there, maybe it's run through the clubs and we affiliate with the clubs in the central region and they do it together and we facilitate them somehow where we can support them to put events on.
Yeah.
But one other avenue we have that's obviously beneficial to the international circuit is we obviously support the Bristol Open, which is the international event in the UK for sure. So obviously Andy's one of the guys that heads that up, but JC runs the floor there. He runs the sport
You're all
data.
interlinked, aren't you?
Of course, we're there to support each other, aren't we?
This is what it's all about, isn't it? If you create relationships, strong bonds where you trust each other implicitly and you lean in on each other, you can achieve a lot more than you ever can by yourself. But you need to find like-minded, trustworthy people to do that with. And that's what a lot of us are all doing, aren't we? We lean right into each other. We trust each other. And because of that, you can build a really big kind of network in all areas. You can go into any area, of kit, whether it's Century kit or Top 10 kit, or whether it's tournaments, or whether it's the new fight league that we're starting with Total Combat, or chains of martial arts schools or mentoring services for martial arts. We're all in on all of them, all leaning in and working together. But we welcome all as well that are like-minded into all of the things, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely something. Sort of, as you were talking about the entrepreneurial side of things. As I was growing up, I ran a first aid training company.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that you're doing for our guys.
There's been plenty of things that I've sort of dipped my toe in and tried out and failed. Is it failed? If you decide to not pursue it, I tried it.
You learn from it.
It was lucrative, but it was very separate, and it was one of those fork in the road moments where, well, if I go this way, we can do all of these things that are martial arts and we'll have the same contacts and build the same relationships, where maybe we can, of course, sell kit to someone that might come and do our tournament. And it's how things layer up, isn't it, in a way that's sensible and that makes sense. So things like the first aid business, it was good. It was a good experience, but it was something that we chose not to pursue and to head in a certain direction.
Because there's only so many things you can do and be good at, like exceptional at. You've only got so much time. So that's what I say. If you stay in that lane and they're kind of in that lane with you, then there's no extra work. It kind of comes along with what you're doing, doesn't it? Which is what you managed to do, which I know I do, and I know Andy does as well. So back to where we were about your schools then. So if we go back again, so you're opening your schools up in those area, and then let's talk a little bit about your rise to fame then from that, because you were unheard of at that stage, really.
Oh, sure.
You just come through, you did the course, and you went to your first squad training, you'd opened your schools up, and now you're like, right, you have an analysis, with your Elon Musk mind, looking at everything, thinking about, what you want from this and how you can add value, which is ultimately what you try to do with everything, isn't it?
Yep.
To carry on from there then.
So when I had 5 schools at that point, and we'd just been relocated from a primary school into like a really dirty scouts hut in Rugeley. It was rough, like real rough. And one of my students' parents Lynette Harvey.
Yeah, he's still around.
It's very much still around. She actually qualified as a referee 2 weeks ago. In your, she came to your
did she go to that
course in Telford. Yeah. So she's very much still involved. And yeah, she was just like, oh, we're taking on new premises. They have a windows and doors company. We've taken on new premises. It's got like this warehouse building attached. Do you fancy it for an academy? And I could be wrong, I think I had 7 students in Rugeley at the time.
Yeah.
Because it's a tiny little mining town.
Tiny. How many was the population? Just
last time I checked, it was 18,000.
Was it that? Wasn't even that when you launched?
No, it was smaller than that for sure. They're just blowing it up massive because Amazon moved there, and they've knocked a power station down. They're building 3,000 houses, so it's going to grow a lot, which is obviously good. But at the time, it was my smallest school out of all of my 5 schools. It was tiny, but it was one of those opportunities where, how do you say no? That was always a dream, having came to your centre in Telford and from a traditional martial arts background where nobody had a full-time academy back then at all. Like it was just a gym or a leisure centre or a school hall, and you turn up, pay your £5 in a tin and train. That's how it was. That's all I knew about martial arts. So I just said and I regularly look back at the pictures on my phone of what it was like. It was we're right by something called Cannock Chase. It's like a national forest basically, and it was ran as a wildlife management centre. So there was dead rabbits in a freezer in the corner to catch things. And it was so bad, so bad. I'm sure you'll throw some pictures on the screen now. Yeah. It was terrible. But you walk in at that age, I was 22. Just look around and think,
all the potential.
Lick of paint, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing what paint can do though, isn't it? A clean up
some
and
mats,
some paint.
It'd be sound.
It's a good thing with martial arts. All you need is space.
Yeah, for sure.
Clean it all up, paint it white or whatever colour.
Yeah.
Stick your mats down and it looks 1,000,000% better straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's got a mezzanine in there. So the parents are all upstairs. We just train downstairs.
It's a lovely environment. It's a great place.
It's perfect.
And it looks like you've done what you've done with it. Every inch of it you've made as good as you possibly can. And then you did a bit of a rejig as well during COVID, didn't you? Where you got a load of extra bags and stuff in, hang them in off the mezzanines.
Yeah,
you utilised what was already there to get your maximum amount of use of the floorage space as well.
So now we're up to about 150 students there now, which for such a tiny little town it's a good number.
Yeah, of course.
We're still growing, of course, but the thing that's special about Rugeley is how many high-level athletes have came out of that place is very much like the book that you've been pecking on at me to read.
Did you read it?
I'm halfway through it at the moment.
What do you think of it then?
It's very familiar.
So the book is called
Bounce
as well. And as soon as I read it, I messaged you and went, Tony, you need to watch this. You need to read this book. It's all about coaching. So if anyone's into coaching, you need to read the book Bounce.
Yeah.
And it's about table tennis, isn't it? And it's about how this one guy, some of the best table tennis players in the world came from this one little nothingy little village, isn't it? And that's because there was facilities available there and some good level coaching. And because of that, attracted and good people and bred good people, and some of the best in the world just came from this one village, which is similar to your situation in Rugeley, which is why I recommended the book.
Yeah. So for example, the junior championships, we took 9 fighters to the juniors. Yeah. And we brought back 7 world champion, 7 golds from 9 fighters.
Golds as well.
Golds.
Yeah. Not just medals.
No.
Which is great when people, don't get me wrong.
Oh, many people go and don't even bring a medal back. It's a big deal.
Exactly. But a gold is different, very different to a medal, especially if you're getting consistent, that fighter's getting consistent golds and you're getting multiple golds. That's a sign of excellence, isn't it? Rather than being good. Being in there, don't get me wrong, being in there, rubbing shoulders with the best and still getting medals is still very, very good, but it's a different thing when there's consistent golds. And remember years ago, I told you, I said you were going to do this, remember? Because I could see the trajectory you're on and it reminded me of what I was doing with my guys. And I'd take no shit as well. You're just the same way as me. You're really tough on them. Tough love though. And that's how you justify the way you do everything. It's because it's for the betterment of the group and you're going to be better from it. Say thank you. Do you know what I mean? That's my job, is to be tough on you and not make it easy for you. And I knew years ago, I said, you're going to have the best fight team in the country. And Dad said, you're going to end up with like world-class fighters. And you did, because you just stuck in your lane and you kept doing something and you were doing it right. And you're on that, like Kaizen, you call it, the mindset where it's constant and never ending improvement. So you look at what you've got, but that's good, but what can we make better?
And I remember you saying to me, "Oh, in 5 years you're gonna have like," and I remember thinking, 5 years? Like, nah, come on. I was thinking 3 years. I'll show you. 3 years. Oh, absolutely, 3 years. I think I did it about 4, so you weren't far off. But that's exactly where we're at now. So we've got a phenomenal junior team, and we've got children like 7 years old, 8 years old.
And they get better, don't they? Once you get good, once you've got a really good nucleus, they all learn off each other. Then I'd turn into my senses, and there'll be someone that's been coming 6 months, and they're brilliant. I'm like, I've never even seen him. Or someone that's been coming 2 years, I hadn't even seen him, and they're brilliant. And that is just amazing, isn't it, when you get to that level? We're
very much at that point now where our beginners coming in as like, I've gradually lowered the age to which we do sparring classes now.
Yeah.
So we have separate sessions that are for little ninjas or little soldiers, or however you phrase it in your gym, but the 4 to 7 year olds. And they are invite only.
Yeah.
Because obviously at 4 or 5 years old, sparring definitely isn't for everybody. No. Some children need other support. But the ones that are showing an interest or showing the right place in their journey to get involved at that age, we bring them in and we work with the support team. So Ellie teaches a lot of that. Ellie Harvey, one of our fighters, and she'll get them in. We pull in the junior instructors to get involved, and I purposely step back now. And we've, like you said, we're at that point where we've got our role established in terms of making the team.
Yeah,
and I show the guys, all of my fighters, whether they're 5 years old or 55 years old, they all sign a contract.
Yeah,
and they all have a very clear understanding. Like I say, if you're 5, you will write your name on this piece of paper.
Yeah. And
this writing your name on this piece of paper means that you are committed to putting your heart and soul into being the very best athlete you can be. Because that's how we're taught to them. They're not fighters. They're not kickboxers. They're athletes.
Yeah.
And they're treated and trained like professionals because that's the levels to which we uphold each other.
Yeah.
Now where we're at, the juniors have got to that level where we're winning gold medals all around the world. The seniors, we're only just starting to have come through. So Jack Buckley's my oldest star.
Oh, it'll come now. You watch. Now because they're all coming through, and they'll naturally, if you're getting golds there, you can see it with the young ones, they should be able to continue that because the standard's really, really high in the juniors, probably higher now than it is. And I don't mean so horribly. There's probably more, there is more, and there's more depth within the juniors, would you say, now than there is in the seniors?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And we're at that place where I've got Jack's 22, Ellie's 19, Rebecca's 18, Ryan Evans is 18, Summer Harvey's 16, Ella Hawkes is 15, turning 16. All of these are world and European champions. Brilliant. So they're all at that age where they're either just breaking into the senior team or they're about to break into the senior team.
As well, I forgot to mention, you're GB junior coach, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, Brilliant. So I'm on the coaching staff for the under 19.
So will you go into the GB adult at some stage, do you think? Makes like logical sense if they're coming through, or is that yet to be kind of
I've asked for many years.
Yeah, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think maybe then there might not have been a justification. I think once you're going to have, you might have like a third of the team might be your team, so it makes sense then. Would you think that would likely? It
would make sense to me, yeah. I'll keep asking, let's put it that way.
I'm sure you will, yeah.
I will.
Yeah. So it gets to the point where it makes logical sense and there's no other.
For sure. Yeah. So that's the route I hope to. I'd still like to work with the juniors because I still intend to bring many juniors through. Obviously, the coaching staff is only so big, isn't it? So, if there's 20 fighters, they can't have 15 coaches. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But Kickboxing GB, our national governing body's in a bit of a transitional period at the moment.
And there's big things happening, isn't there? Do you want to go over
some of those as well? Fairly recently, we got sporting recognition.
Yeah.
Kickboxing got IOC recognition in 2021. And there's a heck of a journey into getting to the Summer Games, the Summer Olympic Games. But at the moment, we've been in the European Olympic Games. We've been in the World Combat Games. Next year, we're in the World Games. So all of the big international sporting events, we're starting to tick off.
Yeah.
We're not in 2028 for LA. That's already been decided.
We're not.
No, because
that was the hope, wasn't it?
It was the hope, and it was positive, and we shortlisted and everything. We had a great chance. And then the NFL decided, because it's in America, they wanted to tag American football in and throw like $50 million at it. And
you can't compete against that.
and shockingly, they got it.
It is America as well.
You
do get to choose, I think, don't you? That's how karate got them, wasn't it? When it was in Japan.
Yeah, that was one of the host sort of sponsored sports, if you like. I don't know the proper terminology for it, but yeah, I think the host can pick 2, and that's why breakdancing was in Paris. That was one of the hosts.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Breakdancing's huge in France.
I don't think that's going back in though, is it? After the last,
I don't think so.
happened?
No, it had. Well, it got talked about.
Yeah, yeah.
Depends what they were looking for.
Maybe all publicity is good publicity.
Well, that's been said, hasn't it? I don't know if they'll view it in the same way. It's a little bit of politics involved as well, isn't it? But yeah, so that's where kickboxing is. And recently, the size of the GB board has been doubled, and there's
I saw that. So, it's all familiar faces though. I looked at who they've got on there as well. Did you put forward to go for that? So
I didn't.
Andy did, didn't he?
Andy did.
I thought Andy would have got in. I think it'd have been a really, just my personal opinion because I know him, because he's fair and he's the big picture. He's selfless, so he's just not thinking about himself. And I know you'd be the same as well. So did you put yourself?
I didn't. No. So Andy did, and JC Cashman did. So two of the GB Grand Slam directors. Personally, it's just not the right, like you say, it's a say no moment. Yeah. And with traveling so much and having the different businesses on the go, it was one of those that the biggest thing for me, I was looking at it thinking, there's such a lot of work that needs to be done here. I don't want to, like you say, I don't want to say I'll do it and then not be able to deliver it, because that's just not who I am as a person. No. And I believe there's going to be a re-election. I think they're every 2 years they're looking to do.
So you might be able to put in at that stage then.
We'll see. Maybe I'll chuck my name in the hat then. We'll see.
Well, Roy Baker's doing a great job, isn't he? Leading the front. I mean, all these big things have happened since he's come in.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. He's actually coming on the podcast in January.
Excellent.
So that'll be great. It'll be an online one because he's obviously over in Ireland.
Yeah.
He's so busy. He's all over the place, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He's got a really successful job as well.
Oh yeah.
Like really, top level blue chip company kind of.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know if he's CEO or not, but he might. I think he might.
I'm not sure if it's, he's definitely on the board for sure.
They say give a busy person something if you want it done, because they manage time and will prioritize, and that's a perfect example, because I don't even know if the guys get paid. Well, they certainly don't get paid, if they do, enough or as much to justify all the work they do. A lot of it's just headed, isn't it, by people that are passionate about the sports, and it's amazing how much effort you do put in when you're passionate about something, isn't it?
For sure. That's how we got involved with Beyond the Battle, the videography business that we do. So our view as sort of coaches, fighters, people that love the sport, there just wasn't enough professional level media to support the growth of the sport to the level that we wanted it to be. Yeah. So Emily has always done photos with Em's photos, world famous for photography, and everybody in the sport knew who she was. But as social media and everything has evolved, everything's gone to video, hasn't it? Like photography is obviously super important. Still, you still need it, but video is where the attention's gone for sure, isn't it? So, we kind of had a bit of a conversation on how we can make that happen and how we can create some social media content. That's been going since 2019 now. Has it? So coming up to 6 years.
All happy with that? You think you'll continue doing this?
Yeah, I think so. So the way we launched it involves Roy. That's why I'm bringing it up. So I was obviously at the Junior Championships as a coach. Yeah. Emily came along doing some media, and we launched Beyond the Battle Productions faceless. So we just turned up, captured some content. I did some edits, and we released the page and the social media profiles and some videos, but didn't tell anybody who it was.
Yeah. And why?
Just get people talking about it. It's mysterious, isn't it?
And what happened?
Roy Baker messaged the page.
Did he?
And so he was the first person to ever message Beyond the Battle and say, "Who's this? This is really good. Like, come and talk to me." Yeah, yeah. And we actually did on, I think it was the second or third day. Roy was like, "Right, come and do an interview with me." And we got him all mic'd. Like, we were totally right at the beginning. We didn't really know what we were doing. We were just winging it. We were a photographer and a coach that we got mobile phones and whatever, but we've learned obviously everything since then. And he was walking us around the arena, filming him and talking. And we did an interview with him talking about his goals for getting in the Olympics. And since we worked with Roy quite a few times, he's came up to us a couple of times and gone, "Oh, come on, let's come and do an interview and put some content out."
That's good.
He's really supportive of us. Obviously, the journey they're going through as an organisation is currently, they need a lot of money. That's their biggest stopping factor. So,
what, like big amounts millions, now to bring it forwards?
Millions.
How would they go about getting that then now? Isn't there funding for that? Is that how it works? Or
from my understanding, and again, this is just as a coach's perspective looking in, so I could be totally wrong. Don't quote me at all. I believe they're putting layers in where funds will be drawn up from grassroots, as most sports have. So licensing fees, tournament promoter fees, et cetera, to support the ecosystem. obviously they're looking outside in to pull additional sponsorship from outside. That's how Century Martial Arts got involved.
Yeah.
They paid a very large number.
They do, the sponsors, Top 10.
To get
they're
to
both the
platinum. Yeah.
platinum,
So they're
and
very
that's
top.
not cheap.
No.
That is not a.
And from my knowledge, I believe it was
I know how
quite a
much it is,
large
but I won't say how much.
number to get in, though.
So
Right. Not what Top 10 pay, because they're a new platinum sponsor. I believe it was quite a lot more than that.
So they had to like pay money to get to the
like
table.
a buy-in. Yeah.
You have to get to the table to play.
Yeah.
And then yeah. Can imagine. I don't think Century's short of a few bob though. Is it the international?
They're everything's done through America still.
Yeah.
So even the European HQ that's in Germany, they communicate straight back to Oklahoma in the state. Everything's still done from the States. And loads of the guys from America have been to the WAKO events. We've met Michael Dillard a couple of times, the son of the older Michael Dillard, Michael Dillard Jr. He's now basically, from our perspective, he's grabbing the reins and leading the sport. Brilliant. In terms of Century Kickboxing forwards. And they're really supportive. They're a very professional outfit, and we're really enjoying working with the structure of them.
That's good. And do you know what's mad? And I thought about this the other day, is that we both work together, and you're an instructor, and I'm an instructor within British Military Martial Arts, and it's great to have you part of it, and dead proud of you. And that's why I wanted you on here as well, everyone to know the Tony I know. As well, and you're very successful, and we speak a lot about lots of other stuff and work together on stuff, and it's mad that I'm the distributor for Top 10 in the UK and you're the distributor for Century. We're both the platinum sponsors of WAKO. Mm-hmm. That's no accident.
No.
But do you know what's good as well is that these are opposing and competing brands. And there is in no way, like, we're not competing in any negative way with each other, is there? Like,
not at all.
It's like, how proud was I when you got it? I've made up for you. I thought, you're your own man, you're creating your own legacy. And I think that was brilliant that you've done that. And as well, it's a real good shining example of the success that you've had, breeding more success. So well done.
No, thank you. I
did. Obviously, we want to sell more Top 10 stuff than Century.
Obviously, and I want you to be like that, because that'll push us to.
Of course, and we know steel sharpens steel.
Of course, it does.
So yeah, that just wanted to tell you that as well.
No, I appreciate that, Lee. I did have many people come up to me
and saying, "What about Top 10?"
Oh, like, what are you going to say to Lee? I was like, "You don't understand our relationship at all."
I would never ever would I in any way. Whenever you come with anything, I think. You can't be, because it's a relationship and partnership. That's what it is. That's how I've always worked. It's not a pecking order. No one's like, obviously with my franchise, I set out the policies and I'm lead scout in that area, but I deal with everyone on a personal and equal relationship, don't I? As everyone will say. And I listen to it. I'll listen to what people say and I will take it on board. But I obviously as well, I've got strong reasons for decisions I might make. And a lot of the time people trust me anyway, don't they? Even if it might not be what they would particularly do, but I do listen. And I'll try as well in certain areas. I always say this, like, if you can't, like, because you can't always do exactly what everyone wants, right? You've got to do what you want or what you think's correct. But you can meet people a little bit, just even to show that you've been heard means a lot, doesn't it?
Of course, absolutely.
And hopefully, and I'm sure you do with your own leadership now, because you're your own man, you've got your own legacy. I've not seen the way you interact with yours, but I'm sure you do exactly the same with the people that are with you as well, the way you treat them.
Yeah, of course. I've learned a lot through our relationship. Obviously, like I say, I met you when I was 21, 22. I was very young and totally green when it came to business. So we've had many conversations, haven't we, over ideas or another business that I did. I owned a nursery with my family.
Yeah, of course. That's right.
So, and that was a different experience in itself, buying a nursery, running it, making it better, being... as you can imagine, fully submerged, apron on, feeding children, fully submerged, everything from the financial side of things to that, to a point where we sold it and we made a good profit out of it. And there's been quite a few different business journeys that I was on the phone to you talking about, picking your brains, and that's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Like it's And I speak to you as well, don't I, about stuff, and I run ideas past you, Tony, because I know you've got an analytical mind. I know you'll tell me the truth as well, and you see things differently in a slightly different way to what I would, and I'll take that on board because I might not have seen it. And I think if people can do that and shed their ego a little bit and not just think, right, I want the best, I don't want to just be right. I don't mind not being right 100%. Do you know what I mean? If someone can give a little bit more feedback in something, I do so a lot of my senior instructors as well, then I lean in on them and I'll listen to what they say as well. And collectively then we've all hopefully got ownership on what we're doing and decisions that are made within the organisation.
For sure. And I think that sort of mindset is essential, like you say, in terms of being elite in anything, and that's what's driven my achievements in coaching and getting my guys to the level that they are, was that lack of ego and absolute humility of, I did a lot of my education at the beginning, going and staying with the Hungarians, the Crowley team. I think 9 years in a row, I went and stayed in the university dorms.
You did everything.
Sleeping on boards, eating the same as them, and and I'm now very, very good friends with a lot of the Hungarian guys.
Yeah,
but like you say,
planting seeds as well.
Total.
If you look at my book, and I put in there about exactly what you need to do in order to be successful, like at coaching, but also it crosses over into multiple things. And you did exactly that process. You submerge yourself around the very best. And you submerge yourself and you look at do exactly what they're doing, go to where they're going, train with them, fight where they're fighting. And you just stay doing that. It's dead simple, but people won't, because it's quite painful.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't be at the top of the chain then, and that's very humbling to do that. But if you can hold on long enough, you can get pulled to the very, very top, can't you?
For sure.
It takes 10 years though. Said that.
Oh yeah.
It takes 10 years. Well, it takes 10,000 hours, doesn't it? Mastery.
Yep. It's in a book I've read.
Yeah.
It is.
But I'll tell you as well, I mean, what you've done now, and you've built stuff, and just referring back to what we said about leadership and kind of the way we interact and you interact with people around you, is if you can build something great, but you can lose it and destroy it like that, and you can have break-offs so you can lose people. I mean, part of being successful is leaning in onto your team, listening to them and keeping everything together. Because how easy is it to be, if you had a disagreement with someone, just go, no.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I know you are black and white, and I know but then I know also the other side, the bigger picture, the Tony who cares. You can't just say, you don't just that to everything black and white, because you have no personal relationships left, and no one will want to work with you because they'll just think you're a pain in the ass. Yep. You can be a pain in the ass when you're coaching to the refs and to the opposing coaches, but not your team, your close ones. You've got to work with them, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's their understanding of why.
Yeah.
That's the word I use more than anything when I teach seminars, when I coach. Why is everything. That's the key to life. And if you don't understand why, that's when those feelings arise. Oh, he's just a pain in the ass, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah.
But if you understand why, when you've then got that gold medal around your neck and your national anthem's playing,
thank you now.
it's all of a sudden not a problem, is it?
No, it's like the black belt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Parents hate me on the Saturday, and they really hate me Saturday afternoon. And then the biggest fans come Sunday afternoon, aren't they? Once they've got the black suits on and they've got the belts.
And it's education and communication, isn't it?
Yeah,
if you can educate people and communicate to them why we are doing these things,
you can bring them on board, then manage expectations, then, and you learn from experience doing that. When you do it wrong and you haven't managed expectations,
oh God, yeah.
And people are like, oh, you think, I don't want to experience that again. Right, I'll make sure I manage that a lot better on the build up for the next time, don't you?
And like you say, with my personality, that's happened a few times, and you have to learn. Don't
it's
you?
not nice, though, is it?
No, because you don't do it on purpose.
No, and people don't realise, right, when you're that engaged in something, you're that passionate like we are, it fucking hurts when you don't do something or people think you've done it right. It really hurts, doesn't it? Like to the core.
Many sleepless nights.
Yeah, thousands.
They wouldn't believe it, would they?
No. Do you know what I mean? A thousand nights I must have had that have gone on for infinity of just thinking through things that I've done or were wrong or things I've done. I don't now, because now I trust that I'll do the right thing. I've still made mistakes, obviously. Everybody will. I'm still always learning. But I'll try and make it right. And if people know that as well, I think, even if you were really annoyed with me, you probably have been, I don't know, or you might be really annoyed at something, maybe not me, and then, if you speak to me, if I can, I'll sort something when do you know what I mean?
I can honestly say, Lee, I've never had a situation between us when we've been working together where I haven't felt like if we have a conversation, it'll all be okay.
Yeah,
and I can honestly say that.
And when that way, and that's great to know, and thank you very much for that. I mean, that means a lot, but that's also good to know if something does trigger, like now, because we're 15 years into a relationship, where something might be, you might stress over it thinking, I hope that's going to change. Now you might not need to. I'll just speak to Lee next time I see him and we'll get that sorted. Rather than it might not be. Like when you're younger,
of course,
you want to get it sorted now and you might be worrying about something, Yeah,
that's experience and trust, isn't it?
That's it, mate. So, Tony, what a wicked conversation it's been. I knew it would be, and I've been really excited to get you down. I know you've been busy, so I really appreciate your time coming down. No problem. I'm going to go take you and Emily out for a brunch now then.
That's it.
We can have
sample some of Liverpool's delights.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, buddy. Cheers, mate.
No problem.